Hello, folks. It is Margo Arceri with Tri-Spy Tours. Today, we are going to be visiting the Hawkins family cemetery on Pond Path in East Setauket. For those of you who are not familiar with Tri-Spy Tours, I run Tri-Spy Tours in conjunction with the Three Village Historical Society. Tri-Spy is a play on a triathlon because we do a biking version, a kayak version, which we've partnered with Pominock Tours, and a walking tour version. I started this company 7 years ago in collaboration with the Historical Society. I was doing the regular walking tours and decided, hey, let's kind of target a little more active person. So Tri-Spy was born. We certainly focus most of our attention around the Culper-Spiring, but at the Historical Society we do believe that the community is our museum, so we like to weave in some non-Revolutionary War history. So today we're going to be giving you a little bit of that. When I started this company, Brookhaven town historian Barbara Russell was quoted as saying, "Lucky is the child who hears the story from an elder and cherishes it for years." So I am that child. I first heard the story of the Culper-Spiring when I was 7 years old by my next door neighbor, Anna Smith Strong, the only female member of the Culper-Spirings, great-great-great-granddaughter. Kate Wheeler Strong, she was an historian. She lived till she was 98 years old. And we'd go to her house. We'd trek through the woods. And she'd invite us in. Her caretaker, Margaret, would offer us these dreadful ginger cookies. And we'd go up to her room on the second floor, and she had a parrot in the corner and a little chair next to her bed, and she would tell stories of long ago. She wrote for many years for the Long Island Forum true tales from the early days on Long Island, and she would print up little booklets of each. It was a monthly publication of each month's publication, and kind of stories of yesteryear sort of stuck for me as a child. Kate was blind the last 40 years of her life, but that certainly didn't stop her from telling stories and continuing the things she loved. As for storytelling, blindness was never a handicap for her. Miss Kate, or Cousin Kate, as we used to call her, believed that stories should be read to children, rather, not be read, and they should be told with spontaneity. But she did miss the look of quickened interest and anticipation that always lit up the children's faces while she would tell them stories. Kate was also a holder of the National Weather Service, so she would track daily the rain and things like that in Setauket. She had a large stamp collection, and she always took pleasure in the phonograph. She liked the talking book style, so that was kind of interesting. But one of the stories I'm going to flip around and show you guys right now. This is an actual book of the true tales of the early days on Long Island, so you can see it. So again, it was a monthly publication for the for the Long Island Forum. So there you have it. There, I know it's backwards. But one of the tales was about a fellow by the name of Zophar Hawkins. So that's who we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to flip you guys around, and we're going to go a little tour of the Hawkins family cemetery, and then we'll get to do some storytelling. So let's just get you guys here. So here we are. This sign was put up by the Three Village Historical Society. This is the Hawkins family graveyard. Nassakeg, including the remains of the patriots of the Revolutionary War. So this was established in 1787. So it's not a very large cemetery. The older section is over to that side. Well, let's go visit the man of the hour, shall we say. So his original stone is here, although it has broken into a few parts. But here we have Zophar Hawkins. Revolutionary War. He was born January 24th, 1757, and passed away October 26, 1847. So many Hawkins are buried here. This is known as the South Setauket Hawkins family burial ground. And you can see that if you want to obtain the names of the folks that are here, you can get in touch with the Brookhaven Town Historian's Office. So this gives you just a little bit of what the cemetery looks like. We have some of the older ones over here. So let's see who we have here. Give you guys a little bit of a tour. This is Alexander Hawkins. He was part of the Suffolk County Minutemen, and he also fought in the Revolutionary War. So we have some things here. So very, very interesting. But now, why don't we get to the part that you guys are waiting for, a little storytelling. So if you have some young folks in the home, you may want to gather them around. And let's talk about Zophar Hawkins, the Indian captive. So again, this was written by Kate Wheeler Strong for the Long Island Forum, and it's part of her True Tales from the Early Days on Long Island. A graveyard seems hardly the place for an interesting tale, but in an old burial ground in South Setauket, on a mossy stone, one finds the brief record of a life as exciting as that of many a Western pioneer. Zophar Hawkins was born in 1756 in an old house on the edge of the land now belonging to St. George's Golf Links. In those days, the hillsides were dotted with wigwams of friendly Setauket Indians, and I imagine Zophar had many good times with them. One day, he was herding cattle near Lake Ronkonkoma when he was captured by hostile Indians. Tradition says that they carried him far away, but no one seems to know where exactly. Long and earnestly did his family search for him, helped no doubt by the Setauket Indians, but all in vain. 3 years Zophar dwelt among the Indians, and they married him to an Indian squaw. At last his chance came. He escaped, guiding himself by the stars, as his Indian friends had taught him. When morning was breaking, he crawled into a hollow log. The Indians traced him there. They beat on the log and kicked it, only to discover, as the enemies of Bruce did long ago, that a spider had spun its web across the opening. Then they gave up in disgust and looked elsewhere. After nightfall, Zophar, very cramped and stiff, crawled out and started on his way. After long traveling, he reached home at last, to the joy of all of his people. It was after the beginning of the Revolutionary War, and I think after the Battle of Setauket Green, that word was brought to South Setauket that there were exciting doings down by the Setauket Pond. Zophar Hawkins, who perhaps found life a bit quiet after his earlier excitements, and his friend Arthur Smith decided to go down and see what was happening. They found that a small party of British soldiers, after having landed from a whaleboat, had marched to Tyler's Tavern in search of deserters. This tavern was not the present community house, but one that seemed to stand near the road a little further on. The house was later moved up on the hill and still shows the bullet holes made on that occasion. As the soldiers entered the building, Red Fern, a schoolteacher, rushed upstairs and called to 2 girls who were sleeping there that they were safer in bed. He had only come 4 steps down the stairs when a stray bullet struck and killed him. 2 other men were killed, and a third escaped by climbing up the great chimney. Zophar and Arthur were hanging around outside. The British, catching sight of them, fired and killed Arthur, and as they thought, Zophar as well. But Zophar had dropped as they fired and lay for dead, an old Indian trick. It is said that when the soldiers had gone, he jumped to his feet and ran fast for home, that you couldn't see the heels for the dust. Zophar later fought in the Revolution and came through unwounded. It was years before he took a wife, and then she was a young girl 21 years his junior. His footstove, a big one nice decorated with J.H., and a heart, evidently a wedding present, was all that warmed them. Zophar and his wife, Juliana, sleep side by side in the quiet graveyard, and we'll go visit them again in a few minutes. And she having died in 1872. His tombstone reads, Zophar Hawkins, who died October 26, 1847, in the 91st year of his age. He served his country faithfully in the Revolution and was captive among the Indians for 3 years. He lived a quiet and peaceful life, was happy, and resigned to death. So after we read these stories, I kind of just point out a couple things. So we have mention of the St. George's Golf Course, which is right down the road, and there's a couple neat little tales I'll tell you about there in one of our future talks. We mentioned the community house, which is actually now the Setauket Neighborhood House, which will go live on location one day outside there and give you some things that happen there. And then the tavern, they're speaking of the Tyler Tavern, we refer to today as Jane Tavern, and it's on the corner of Tavern Way. So we do stop there on all our tours. I'm going to take you guys back through the cemetery one more time, give you guys another feel for the area. And so again, we're on Pond Path, and this is the Hawkins family cemetery. And kind of neat how Zophar hid in a log and the spider spun its web, so when the natives looked through, they didn't see anything. And then again, how he used his captive's tricks of playing dead. So here we have Zophar right here when he was shot outside the schoolhouse. And right next door we have his wife. So this has been a great treat. Hello everybody. Hope everyone's doing well and safe. We do hope that you can make it to Setauket if you're not from here, from a tour, hopefully sometime this summer. There's so many interesting tales to tell of this area, and I think that when you come on a tour, when you come visit Setauket, you can't help but falling in love just a little bit with the area. So each week I'm going to try to bring you something different of the community. And next week you guys can look forward to the story of Emma S. Clark and how our town received a library from her uncle. So that's going to be a neat story. We are a not-for-profit at the Historical Society, and if you go to their Facebook page or their website, we certainly would love some donations, $1, $5, whatever anybody can afford. We know these are tough times. We do hope everyone is safe and healthy. Little shout out to my friend Lisa. Happy birthday, sister. God bless you all. And Kaylee, this is for you. Have a positive day, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.